So I'm just doing a quick cheapy video where I'm just looking at the internet. I have it set up like this as I don't have any kind of external microphone. So I'll have to do for the moment. So I'm on IMDb looking at the film career of Natalie Portman. I was going through a phase of looking at older movies. And when I say older movies, I don't even mean old movies. I mean movies from like the 80s, 90s, 2000s. I think everybody felt there was this major change in pop culture after around 2012 and the insidious deployment of a colour revolution against our mind and soul. So one of the films that popped up was Leon the Professional, the semi-notorious 90s action movie, which sees the 12-year-old Natalie Portman fall in love with the middle-aged Jean Reno, written and directed by Luc Besson. And I believe Luc Besson had his own relationship with the teenage girl when he was in his 30s or 40s, which I suppose is completely normal if you're a Frenchman. Go straight to Candace Owens' YouTube channel for some interesting details on Macron. But anyway, it's a long time since I'd seen this film. I remember seeing this film in the 90s, I suppose it would have been late 90s, mid to late 90s, it would have been on TV, and watching it as an action movie. And you kind of ignore the dubious sexual overtones in the pleasure of just watching a shoot 'em up movie, particularly where the bad guys are the cops and the hero is the kind of laconic, silent Frenchman. But rewatching it, it is pretty disgusting how explicit they make the film. I believe in the original script they wanted the characters actually sleeping together. So they don't go that far in the finished film, but of course they imply it, and really it is very disturbing to see the extent to which they do sexualize this child actress. And I hadn't realised this is actually Natalie Portman's first film. So the first thing you consider is, what the hell is going through the minds of her parents that they were happy for her to appear in this, go along with this, presumably after having read the script where she professes her love and desire for intimacy with this middle-aged man. Most people would kind of recoil in horror. So you wonder, did they see this as this great opportunity for her to have for their daughter to have a career in Tinseltown? And it makes me think of all these talent shows, like America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, whatever, where the unwashed masses, the plebeians, dare to raise their head above the parapet in the hope that the feudal lord will pick them out from obscurity, sort of like the inverse perversion of the beginning of Braveheart, where the English lord has his way with the local girl on her wedding night. So as we move towards this technocratic state where the true order of humanity is placed back into feudal serfdom, we try and understand where we are at this point in the timeline by what is reflected back to us in the pop culture. But I just find it so sad thinking of those parents with their children on things like Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent. This great dream to be plucked from obscurity to a life of wealth and fame, but in reality, it's madness, perversion, decadence, depravity to what they're being initiated into and then propagating out to their own generation. Because it really does strike me looking at her career, how it plays out. So we're just looking at the publicly available information that anyone can look at, to look at what is staring us in the face. Born Natalie Hirschlag, 1981, in Jerusalem, Israel, the only child of Avner Hirschlag, an Israeli-born doctor, and Shelley Stevens, an American-born artist. From Cincinnati, Ohio, who also acts as Natalie's agent. So Shelley's American mother was her agent, and both of her parents are Ashkenazi Jewish descent. Now, when I first read this, it really kind of makes you stop in your tracks. Why have this information stated so plainly in her bio? They could have just said of Jewish descent, but they want you to know she's Ashkenazi, which is a whole rabbit hole full of cans of worms. It says she was discovered by an agent in a pizza parlor at the age of 12, and then made her debut in Lyon when she was just 12 years old. And then I remember she was the daughter in Heath. Blah, blah, blah. And then 99, where most people discover the Star Wars Phantom Menace. They're on their films because she got the Oscar for Black Swan and a second nomination when she played Jackie Kennedy in the Jackie biopic. It's very interesting that she was chosen to play that role. That seems a minor revelation itself. Now, if we look at her films, the films she starred in, let's just look at the Talmudic career trajectory. So her debut in 1994 with Leon, where she is playing out some pedophile fantasy in some similar realm of Woody Allen and Roman Polanski, who took Orson Welles' maxim that making a film is like having the world's greatest train set to indulge one's fantasies. And we see in what we consume and all this endless entertainment amusing us to death is that the dreams, fantasies of these writers and filmmakers are utterly perverse and sickening. So she has her debut on this film. Then she becomes part of pop culture phenomena of Star Wars '99, and it's odd in that first film where her character is older than Darth Vader, where we have Darth Vader as the little boy and Natalie as the queen, who's older. It's a very odd dynamic. The film would be so much better if they were, if episode one had both of the characters around 18 years old. But Lucas was determined to have a child actor to begin the saga. I think one idea is about like selling products and toys to children, and then the idea is as the child grows up, alongside the characters in the film. Then we get episode 2 Star Wars Attack of the Clones in 2002, where the characters fall in love. And I'm just thinking, if you were, say you're, 10, 12, watching episode 1, and then like you're a teenager now watching the love story in episode 2, then you get the kind of the epic Coleman and kind of indie film, Garden State. And then this really struck me, just 2 years after episode 2, Attack the Clones, you get this film, Closer, which is an R-rated film directed by another Talmudic character, Mike Nichols. And I stumbled across this clip where someone had on some movie thing, someone had posted a clip from YouTube of Closer, and I'd never seen this film, and it has this sequence where Natalie Portman is playing this stripper, and it just struck me how kind of degrading this whole scene and sequence is to the human being known as Natalie Portman, and how deliberate it seems, how strategically positioned it seems to have this film released just a couple of years after the end of the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Because what I imagine in my empathetic mind is that a young girl growing up watching these films aimed at children then is coming into maturity with Natalie Portman a few years older, and the message she is giving to those young fans, or those who may or may not perceive her as a avatar, aka role model, she's then making pornography, basically, utterly degrading pornography. And from the actress' point of view, it seems to be a level of initiation where they go through these stages in films of agreeing to be like topless and then naked and then doing like sex scenes. And the famous examples of these children plucked out of Disney shows, I believe, was the case with people like Miley Cyrus and Katy Perry, I think. And it seems very deliberately done, where the child is presented with an innocent, wholesome image of a character portrayed with the charisma of the actor and actress's real being. And you're asked as the audience to go along on this journey with them, where a message is presented to particularly the young female audience that degrading yourself and selling your body for money is normal, is an option, and is expected of you if you want the celebrity wealth and supposed power of joining that table in Hollywood where all the most perverse dreams can come true. And the other striking thing is, how iconic some of these things are. I mean, from Star Wars, to V for Vendetta. She's in the Paul McCartney video, and then she does another sort of explicit scene at the beginning of the Darjeeling Limited. I didn't see that film for years. Years later, after it had come out, and they have this completely kind of pointless, meaningless sequence of her at the beginning engaging in this explicit scene, and it's almost feeling like she's doing it out of obligation or contract. And the contract with who? I suppose the devil, really. And then you see her Black Swan. Then she's back into the mainstream, Thor, Paul McCartney again. And then Jackie. It's very interesting she was picked to play the part of Jackie Kennedy. I mean, some people would argue that when you get these films made about real life people, the actors portraying them are distant relatives. It's very odd how similar Val Kilmer is to Jim Morrison in the Oliver Stone version of The Doors. But that's kind of speculation, unless you want to go down the whole sort of Miles Mathis route of incomprehensible genealogy. But you can see it in two ways. You could see that someone who's talented and naturally charismatic has a career arc that progresses, that allows her to get all these different roles. Or you can see it that it's all bloodline relatives, with actors being placed into positions to promote them up through the ranks, appearing in small films, indie films, then onto, blockbuster films, and then the award-winning films to give them the kudos of an Oscar. So you can see that as a real career, or something that's planned out by the cultural architects. I mean, it seems much more obvious with actors in recent years, like Pedro, or I can't even remember the name of the guy. The guy who played the the son of Han Solo in the Star Wars sequels. His career arc is very similar like that, in going from indie films to mainstream films to blockbuster films, which feels spectacularly unspontaneous. So, does this really mean anything? Is this paranoid rantings? Is this apophenia, seeing meaning where there isn't? Is it pattern recognition or insane far right conspiracy ramblings? Because what do we mean when we say Talmudic or Talmudic culture? I suppose essentially it's about the in group and the out group, and it feels like the in group that runs banking, media, journalism, pharmaceutical companies, Hollywood, and particularly those creatives attempting to engineer all our dreams and fantasies and pop culture products. When you ask, who are these people that were consuming their wares? What are their values? We sort of assume their liberal values are our liberal values, that their Talmudic culture is our natural indigenous culture. But of course, it's not. As I said, they're the dreams of perversion and sadomasochism, explicit violence, torture, pornography, a load of synthetic slop for you to drown your soul in. We have the in group and the out group. The in group creating the media and the out group consuming it, and the out group not being aware or having been educated that the in group creators do not view the out group consumers as human beings, but rather as cattle. And in that sense, I see all these Hollywood movies as cultural architecture, nudging us towards depravity, isolation, and disassociation. We begin with this film for adults, and he's again another adult film. Mars Attacks, Star Wars, PG films. And I'd forgotten about this actually. Yeah, I remember seeing that, I think, at the time, but I totally forgot. She must have just had a small part in that. But her career from Star Wars, I suppose all I'm really observing is that, imagine you're a child going to the cinema, watching Star Wars Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3, and then this film is released. Which is depravity. And what does that do to us? it seems like the normie response is that's life, that's growing up, that's looking at mature subjects for mature audiences. But I think it's an attempt to assault us, assault the minds of children and adolescents, young people, to initiate them into a capitalist consumerist view of sexuality. We don't see a lot in this culture telling our youth about the emotional, spiritual sacredness of human intimacy. Instead, we consume Talmudic depravity, and it's always good to remember that this is not our culture, though it has become so tangled in this mass media age of the simulacrum, when we're all in this war on consciousness, war on the human spirit, whether we acknowledge it or not.